Hey Freedom Fam, I am super excited that you have clicked on this video because I promise you this is going to change your life and the way you view everything. So we are constantly, as empaths, taking on energy, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad energy or a good energy. Those words are very, very, I don't like those words. But we naturally take on those energies. And a lot of the times we have learned how to block anything that we don't want in our space. Okay. Now, I challenge you to allow yourself to accept those energies and transmute them. A little bit at a time. Don't allow all of that energy into your space all at once. Don't overwhelm yourself. Okay. Just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit. Just open a little crack and allow one of those little negative energies that's trying to get into your brain and like an earwig, like lay its babies in there. Okay. Listen to that energy. Uncoil that energy counterclockwise. Uncoil that energy and allow that energy to speak to you. Allow that energy to show you its truth. Now, energies, just like the rest of us, are subject to illusions, right? Maybe that energy doesn't know its own truth. Maybe if you dance with it a little bit, because energy likes to dance, if you move with it, if you flow with it, you'll be able to better understand what its truth is. I'll give you the perfect example, the sadness that we were talking about in the short. Okay, so if you allow that sadness to permeate, to settle, and you start to feel that sadness, then you might have missed a step. Okay, so we allow that energy to come in and speak to us. You can speak the language of energy. Promise. Ask that energy, what is your truth? How can we rewrite your story? Okay, listen to the truth of that sadness. For example, I will give you a sadness that I myself have gone through. The loss of a loved one, the grief that I felt after losing that loved one. Instead of transmuting that energy into something that was useful, I transmuted that energy into something that was very harmful. Okay. Instead of allowing myself to feel sadness, it was easier for me to feel anger. So I transmuted that sadness into anger. But that's not healthy, right? That's not freeing myself. That's keeping me trapped. So when I spoke to this anger, which I transmuted from sadness, I asked this anger, why? Why do you have to be angry? And the anger came back to me and said, because of disappointment, because of a loss of a dream, because of the grief, because of everything that you had to go through because of that loss. But what did I learn? What did I gain? Why did I forget that I gained when I had that loss? Why did I forget that when that loss happened, it opened a big part of my heart again so that I could feel something that I hadn't felt in a long time? And I was able to rewrite that story of anger and turn it into gratitude. That's what I did with the past, my entire past. I analyzed it from an objective point of view. And once I was able to analyze it from an objective point of view, I was able to rewrite the story of that energy. So uncoil that energy. Allow that energy to feel its truth, to dance in its truth, to rewrite its own story so it's no longer anger, but gratitude for the lesson learned. Releasing that anger to allow it to flow more freely, because anger is constricted and you can feel it in your heart. And it turns you bright red, right? Because it's constricting you and it's forcing you to react. But if you release it and you uncoil it and you allow it to flow freely, you can see its truth. And its truth wasn't loss, disappointment. But instead of looking at it as loss, we looked at it as freeing up space to allow better things to come in. Instead of looking at it as abandonment, you look at it from the perspective of that person wasn't meant to be in my life. And they freed up space for the person that is. So we don't see it as loss, but freeing. And do not get me wrong, when I am speaking of love that is lost, the grief that we feel is very, very, very deep. When we speak of grief, we must face our own mortality. We must face that which we fear the most, never being able to speak to them again. But when we open up our heart and we sever the ties between, well, I shouldn't say sever the ties, but when we walk right through that veil, when we see the truth that we can see beyond that veil, that we never lost them to begin with. Yes, they may not physically be by our side, but in your heart space, they are there with you forever. And every time you go into that heart space, they are there. The loss we feel is lessened. It may not go away, but it is lessened. And I'm going to say this again, Viktor Frankl, the man's search for meaning. He specifically touches on this. The loss of his wife. He did not know in the 3D whether or not she was alive or dead, because she was also in a concentration camp. But when he was in his heart space, he was connected to her. He could speak to her. He knew that she was there, and he found peace in that. So when we transmute the loss, the grief, the pain, the sadness, the anger, we can change our perspective and release that energy in a healthy way, allowing it to flow in its own truth. It is not anger that we feel. It is the disappointment in the loss. But when we look at it from that different perspective of, in this moment, I needed that space to open up, to give me more room to accept more love into my life. That reminds me, I need to do a video about the frequencies. As we allow more and more space into our lives, we can accept more love. I hope this really helped you. Remember that everything is energy. Everything. And when we learn how to tap into that energy, it changes our world, it changes our life, and it changes your perspective. Have a wonderful day, guys.